The epic poem Savitri opens in what its author calls the hour before the gods awake. It describes a universe defined by a heavy, unthinking, impenetrable darkness, an endless void where nothing has form and nothing possesses consciousness. When light finally pierces this void during the symbol dawn, it doesn't bring immediate spiritual awakening. It merely forces the physical world to wake up and resume its blind, mechanical routines. The soil, the trees, and the people simply spring into another day of unvarying, unthinking acts. But amidst this automatic machinery, the title character wakes up differently. Savitri is described as a mighty stranger in the human field. She carries a vast conscious joy from somewhere else, but finds herself imprisoned in a fragile, transient human mold. Because of that heightened consciousness, she alone carries a terrible burden. She remembers exactly what is coming. In exactly 12 months, the man she loves, Satyavan, is doomed to die, a strict expiration date enforced by what the poem calls nature's harsh economy. Looking at the world through this lens, human existence appears incredibly grim. It seems to be an inescapable cycle where we are born in ignorance, subjected to the random blows of physical laws, and ultimately extinguished by death. Sri Aurobindo designed Savitri as an exhaustive, multi-volume metaphysical map, a direct attempt to solve the problem of mortality. We can see the raw effort of charting this cosmic architecture in the early manuscripts. These dense, crossed-out lines from 1916 show a philosopher working iteratively to document exactly how and why we are trapped in material bodies. The architect of this massive undertaking was Sri Aurobindo. He spent decades in intense spiritual pursuit, searching for the underlying logic behind human suffering. He recognized a glaring paradox at the center of our existence. If the universe is really just dead, mechanical matter grinding along a meaningless track, why does the human soul so naturally yearn for eternity, for boundless love, and for an escape from its physical limits? That yearning leaves us with two options. Either our desire for eternity is a cruel psychological joke in a trapped universe, or we are entirely missing a hidden structural truth about how the cosmos was actually built. In the fourth canto, titled The Secret Knowledge, Sri Aurobindo lays out that hidden truth. He argues that Earth is not a cosmic accident, and it's certainly not a prison. Instead, it is a deliberate beginning and a base, constructed with a highly specific purpose. This brings us to a concept he calls involution. Before evolution could even begin, Sri Aurobindo explains that a unified, omniscient divine intentionally fractured itself. It descended from a state of total awareness and deliberately plunged into complete ignorance and dense matter. In this system, the divine became the physical universe itself. It chose to become insentient, hiding its own limitless power deep within the structure of our cells and our consciousness. The master of existence is essentially playing an enormous game of cosmic hide-and-seek with its own force. It takes on biological forms, and pushing back up into the light. Through this lens, human limitations, our ignorance, and even our pain are not errors in the system. They are the exact, necessary starting conditions for the divine to rediscover its own nature over the immense span of time. Understanding that theory is one thing, acting on it is another. Savitri's father, King Aspapati, acts as the pioneer. He is the human who first manages to pierce the illusion of the mechanical world. Aspapati realizes that the true creator is loitering right inside of nature's instruments. The omnipotent power we look for in the sky is actually lurking hidden in our own subliminal depths, waiting to be accessed. Armed with this knowledge, Aspapati resolves to tear away the yoke of matter's law. He decides to stop being a passive piece on the board and sets out to find the hidden player of the cosmic game. Grasping the secret knowledge is only step one. Aswapati proves that a human must actually execute a grueling internal practice to force the next stage of our evolution. Sri Aurobindo calls this practice the Yoga of the King. It is an intense, disciplined process where Aswapati methodically severs his mind's reliance on physical senses and completely breaks the rules governing his biological body. This scale maps his ascent. Aswapati climbs the hierarchy of consciousness, moving step by step out of the dense physical realm, navigating through the subtle planes of life and mind, all the way up to the spiritual peaks. Finally, he shatters his human container, experiencing a borderless illumination. Here, Aswapati makes a radical choice. Traditional mysticism might dictate that he stay in this blissful state of nirvana, finally free of the suffering world below. Aswapati rejects that escape. Instead, he performs the ultimate act of this yoga. He deliberately draws this immense, liberated spiritual power back down the hierarchy, channeling it directly into his physical, mortal limbs. He does this to force a literal mutation in the material world. This completely redefines the spiritual path. It is not an escape pod meant to abandon a broken reality. It is a deliberate evolutionary mechanism designed to conquer the world's limitations from within the physical body. By pulling that supreme force down to earth, Aswapati successfully alters what the poem calls the secret code of the history of the world. He engineers the exact spiritual conditions required for a new kind of being to be born, his daughter, Savitri. The meticulous effort required to articulate this complex spiritual endgame is evident in Sri Aurobindo's later drafts. This page from 1947 highlights the ongoing, detailed work needed to perfectly express these final stages of human evolution. And that brings us right back to the opening scene of the epic. When Savitri wakes up to face the terrible fate of her husband's death, she is not waking up as a random victim of an unfeeling universe. Because of her father's preparatory work, Savitri is equipped with the exact force she needs to do the impossible. She steps onto the battlefield fully prepared to directly debate and ultimately defeat death itself. These opening 5 cantos provide the ultimate blueprint for human evolution.